Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. And I'm so delighted to be here with you today. And thank you so much for being here with us as well. And I know that your time is valuable. And so when you share it with me, I am so honored and delighted. So thank you again. And so I want to say hi to Amnon. Hey,
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm just fine and dandy.
Good.
It's kind of
Stuffy.
cooler outside.
The cooler, stuffy. It's all those things at once.
I know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
yesterday
This
was
weather
like
is
80 some. Today
I know.
it's
I'm we're in North Carolina, and I was driving around the other day, and I actually am seeing trees
yeah.
blooming. And that's a scary thought for me because it's February still, and we still have another month to winter.
We had
However,
a winter. We had our
did have a
winter.
winter. Oh my God, we've had everything all wrapped up in one, I think. Anyway, as always, you are welcome to join us during the show. You can comment, you can call in, ask questions, whatever you like. We have a chat. You can put your name, nickname, whatever, and ask questions in there. It's live. We're monitoring it. You can call into the studio at 919-518-9773. And you can also come in on Skype, and that would be Skype voice. And that would be at computers, that's plural, then the number 2K voice. Anytime you want to ask a question, comment, and just be part of the show, because that's how we like it here. We like everybody to participate. And that we know when that happens that, what we do really matters. So please feel free to do that. So today our show, it's a very interesting show, and it doesn't just touch one person. It touches everybody. So whoever you are out there, whether you are a man, whether you're a woman, a grandmother, a mother, a father, an uncle, whoever, brother, whoever you are, son, keep listening, because we all have something to learn about this, and this touches everybody. So today we're going to introduce Hilary Waller to our show. She is the director of programming for the Postpartum Stress Center, and it's going to be an interesting show. So I want to say hey to Hilary. How you doing, Hilary?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. So tell us what you do.
So my primary job is as a psychotherapist. I work with primarily moms and with their families to help them overcome the adjustment to motherhood. Postpartum depression affects, you see lots of different statistics. The one that I tend to choose is 1 in 7. So when you think about the overwhelming number of mothers affected by postpartum depression, we have a busy business. So my job is to help mothers through that adjustment, whether they're suffering from something sort of on the more mild end of the spectrum, an adjustment disorder, all the way through what we see at the most severe end of the spectrum, postpartum depression, anxiety, OCD, psychosis, and everything in between.
So I'm curious. So the delivery, does that just kind of just kind of make this happen, or is there a predisposition for something?
Well, that's a big question. There can be. Certainly, when we see women who had a history of anxiety, depression, any sort of mood disorder, we're looking at a higher risk. But really, any woman can be impacted by postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. And there are many, many risk factors, from lifestyle risk factors related to what kind of social support is available, certainly what kind of delivery she has. When women have had a traumatic delivery, we see a spike in postpartum depression or anxiety after the delivery. So there's not one good reason, so to speak, that someone might be affected by postpartum depression and anxiety. But certainly, depending on the circumstances of a woman's life, all of the circumstances of a woman's life, there are many, many factors that can lead towards the onset of one of these disorders.
So there's a lot. I have a lot of questions because I know I had 2 deliveries. I know my children. I have 2 daughters. They've all been pregnant. So I have lots of questions, and of course, I've known many women who have had, they don't even know what to call it. But you have this campaign, and I'd like you to speak about it, because that, I think, is our doorway into a lot of what you're talking about. So it's Speak the Secret, which I love. Tell us about Speak the Secret.
So let me back up just a little bit by
Okay.
saying that I think it's really important for all women to be aware that the shift to motherhood is momentous. You mentioned your own children. I have my own children, and no matter how kind of healthy and prepared we are, it could be your first baby, it could be your fifth baby. Every new member of the family requires adjustment, and for some women, that adjustment is extremely, extremely difficult. The vast majority of women experience the baby always baby blues when I speak about postpartum depression. Are you with me still? I'm
Yeah,
seeing a
just
little
go
bit of
back.
fuzziness on my
Just
screen.
repeat what you just said because it just kind of got gobbled.
Okay, okay. This is important, so I want
Yes,
to
it
make sure that
is.
we capture it.
Yeah.
Um, the vast majority of women will experience what we call the baby blues. And we see the baby blues come within the first couple of days postpartum. It's that sort of weepy, hormonal feeling, I can't stop crying and I'm not really sure why experience. And many, many, many women have it. The vast majority of women experience something like this after their babies are born. The problem is that women are going to their OBs at 6 weeks postpartum, or talking to their mothers at 8 weeks postpartum, or talking to their primary care practitioners at 12 weeks postpartum, and they're still being told it's the baby blues. It's no big deal, it's the baby blues. The baby blues are transient. They last maybe a day, for some women, a couple of hours, for some women, maybe 2 days. But baby blues should resolve very, very quickly and very shortly after giving birth. And when women are told that they have the baby blues, many days, weeks, months after that sort of sweet spot, couple of days after the baby is born, these women are being dismissed. And what we know is that when these kinds of feelings, the weepiness, the feelings of overwhelm, the feelings of depression, the feelings of profound sadness, the worry, the anxiety, when these sorts of symptoms linger and last, then we're looking at maybe the onset of a postpartum mood or anxiety disorder that requires a different kind of treatment from something transient like the baby blues, which come and go naturally within a few hours. I think it's important to make this distinction because one of the reasons that women are not telling us how bad they feel is because they've been told this is normal. It's okay to feel weepy. It's okay to feel sad. And it is okay to feel a little weepy and a little sad. One of the tricky things about postpartum depression is that so many of the symptoms start out as part of what we expect to feel tired. We expect our libido to be low. We expect to feel a little irritable. We expect to feel sore and to feel more pain than we're used to. But it's when these symptoms last for a longer duration than we would expect normally, when the frequency with which women are experiencing these symptoms, when the intensity is overwhelming and too high, that's when we're looking at a need for therapy, medication, a different kind of support system.
Let me ask. So you said 1 out of 7 women?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, based on what you're saying, do you find, I mean, that there are a lot of women who are maybe getting having babies later in life, who've
hmm
had a career, who have had freedom, and then all of a sudden they don't.
hmm
Is there any reason to look at that and say we, that we can say that there's more women having postpartum because of that fact, or that is not entering into it?
It's a really interesting question for discussion. The statistics are reliable in that our research is pretty good, and I think very highly of the researchers who are doing it. That said, women are not telling us how bad they're feeling. And make no mistake, the stigma is very, very alive. I think that our government is doing as good a job as they can trying to raise awareness and provide programming for women who need support. I think that the explosion on social media, and this will bring us to Speak the Secret. The explosion in support on social media has been fantastic for helping women come forward and begin to express the thoughts that they've been having, the worries that they're having about themselves as a mother, beginning to share what they're experiencing postpartum to try to figure out, am I part of the group of women who has a mood and anxiety disorder? Or am I experiencing either something very, very mild or transient or normal in terms of a postpartum experience? Um, mothers are still severely, severely ill and unable to access help. mothers are still severely ill and unable to admit how bad they're feeling. When we see mothers come into our office, very, very often they come in looking like they hadn't had a baby. They come in trying very hard to fit into their pre-baby clothing. They come in with a full face of makeup and maybe a baby in tow. Maybe the baby's at home with a child care provider. But I'm always astonished by how hard they work to look like they're keeping it all together.
Right.
It's so important for mothers to be perceived as having it all together.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I wish I could tell them before they come here is it's okay to come here and fall apart and tell me how you're feeling. I need to know how you're feeling so that I can help you. The more we talk about how you're feeling, the better you will feel. I'm always surprised by how hard women work to conceal this secret. And when I ask them, does your spouse know how bad you're feeling? Does your partner, does your mother, does your sister, does your best friend? Very often the answer is no, no one knows how bad I'm feeling.
Mm. But so much of what you're saying is registering for me. I was just first of all, you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
So either it's a disorder that you already maybe have a little tendency of having, or it becomes a
Hmm.
disorder. And for very strong, powerful women who have been working, they are used to keeping up a mask. And, they're not gonna just say I'm emotional, I'm this and that. That's not easy for a strong woman to do. And then for women who, are are unhealthy and don't have a support, they're already crying.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
already upset.
Right.
And so it can break your heart to know
Right.
that, it doesn't necessarily have to get to where it sometimes goes.
Right, right. I think it's important for all women to know that there's help no matter how sick you think you are. If you're feeling like you need help, if you're feeling like you need support, if you feel like you need someone to talk to, we are out there and we want to talk to you. It doesn't have to be a therapist, it can be any number of supports available from warm lines to social media support groups, based on Facebook and other social media platforms. It can be a sister, it can be a friend, but I think that women are, especially mothers, are very passionate about helping each other learn to mother. And I think that the vast majority of the time, when we reach out to another woman, to another
Mhm.
new mother, we're eager to share our experiences and we're eager to help, even though there can be such profound feelings of conflict around admitting I'm a new mom and I'm great at my job and I'm a great wife and I've been functioning really highly. And this little crying baby has me needing a lot of help. And I wasn't
Sure.
expecting to feel that way.
Yeah. And I know, like my daughter is away for a week and she left me my 3-year-old grandson. And it's the first time she has left him for any length of time. So for her, she even said to me before she left, should I lay out all of his clothes?
Hmm.
And I can remember when I wanted to do that too with my daughters. I felt that if I didn't leave out their clothes, that I wasn't being a good mommy
Hmm.
if I left them with a caretaker.
Right.
So there's so many, you know, little idiosyncrasies that we have even though my grandson is 3, a new mommy feeling that way about her baby, about breastfeeding. I mean, there's so many nuances today. Breastfeeding, everybody. More people are breastfeeding. In my day, we not everybody was breastfeeding, and when you saw somebody breastfeeding, you kind of looked the other way.
Right. Right.
Today, so many of these of our women are breastfeeding. So,
It's true.
and if you can't, and if your milk's not coming in or it's not working, that's another level of depression.
Absolutely. We all come to motherhood with expectations for what it will be like. And I think that the higher our expectations for ourselves are in sort of our pre-mothering
Mm,
life, the harder it is to overcome the urge to have expectations for our postpartum lives. We think it'll feel a certain way, we think it'll look a certain way, we think that we'll breastfeed and bond with our babies in a certain way. And when any one of those things doesn't happen, it can really be heartbreaking. I have two babies. I have an almost 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And by the time my 2-year-old was born, I've been doing this work a long time and had worked with hundreds of mothers and heard hundreds of birth stories. And I know how normal most new parenting experiences are, that my labor went nicely and my birth went nicely, and I was excited with the outcome. And I will never forget the moment the doctor put this baby in my hands, and he had to say to me, "Hillary, do you want to hold her?" I didn't reach out for her instinctively. And when I looked at her, I thought, "Oh my gosh, you're so gooey." That was the first thing I thought when I saw
Oh
my
my God.
baby. And I had sort of prepared myself for this, like, magical moment like moms think they're going to get, knowing that the vast majority of moms don't have a magical moment when their babies are born. And I think sometimes when I'm sitting down with my clients, like, I wish I could tell her that the first thought I had was, "Oh my God, this child is bloody and gooey and covered in the cheesy stuff." And how normal.
Hillary?
I'm still here.
Okay, repeat what you just said. So listen, everybody, sometimes we might have this happen. We're not going to lose a thing that Hillary tells us, okay? We're going to keep going back if we have to, because I know for one, I'm holding on to every word. So go back a little bit.
I was talking about, my own experience having my second daughter, and really understanding that, for many mothers, we don't get the magical movie moment where the doctor puts the clean pink baby on your chest, and it feels like magic and love immediately. The first thought that I remember thinking when they put my daughter on my chest was, why didn't I instinctively reach for her? Like, why didn't I try to get her from the doctor when she was born? And why did I think that she was kind of gooey and yucky looking? Because she was covered in gooey, yucky stuff. Um, and I think that for moms who don't have the moments like that they expect, where with my first daughter, breastfeeding was extremely, extremely difficult. I think that those moments can really be heartbreaking. And for someone who has a psychologically healthy postpartum period, like myself, with lots and lots of support and education, so that I understood that these things were normal, that it was okay not to love breastfeeding at first, that it was okay to think that your newborn baby looked cheesy and not adorable at first. It's very reassuring for me to know that those are normal reactions. But for moms who don't have that education, and for moms who don't have that support, we work really hard to help them understand that that's okay, and you can still be a good mom and have those initial reactions to your babies. You can still be a good mom and not breastfeed.
And I think and we have Chris has a really good question on the chat, which I want to ask you. But
Mhm.
so it's really important. I mean, and to hear more about the campaign, because I also
Yeah.
think that what you're doing in talking about pre-mothering
Mhm.
or pre the day you deliver. I mean, I was petrified about delivering. I can
Mhm.
remember sitting for the first one, sitting on the sofa in our living room, and I knew I couldn't run away.
Mhm.
I was petrified. I had no idea what was ahead of me, and because no matter what anybody tells you, you just it's you doing it. So
Yes.
getting out, just what you just said, looking at your baby and going goo. I mean, if somebody else, when somebody hears that, they'll go, "She said goo when she looked at her baby." Well, then, wow, if she can say goo, that's why we do the show. This
Right.
is what Breaking Free is about.
Right.
These little teeny things that people don't even hold and don't even know that they're holding.
I think that I think in I and you have the images for the Speak the Secret campaign, is that right?
No, I don't have. No, I don't.
Okay,
Yeah,
I sent a 4 of them to Chris, so if we're able to get some of them, that would be great. And I can
let me
speak
see.
a little bit
Yeah.
about I can speak about the campaign. Um, I remember after the birth of my first daughter, my sister-in-law who had older kids came over, and she was the one who said to me, "So how are you really feeling?" And I gave her like the right answer. "I'm feeling okay and I'm recovering well. And the C-section really hurt. I wasn't expecting that. I feel like my insides are going to fall out. Can I stand up again one day?" She talked to me all about what her C-section was like and reassured me that I could stand up again one day and that my parts wouldn't fall out. But it was my sister-in-law who said to me, "It's okay to feel like you're doing a bad job, and it's okay that you don't know how to do everything yet. This is your first baby, and this is why you need support, and you need your family to be there for you, or you need your friends to be there for you. You need to ask the hard questions." And we got to really talking about how scary it is to be a new mom, responsible for a new life. responsible for upholding these high expectations and these hopes and dreams that we've had for ourselves, and how when you're sleep deprived and when you're in pain and when you're recovering from such a momentous physical event, how hard it is to feel like you're doing a good job. So the
Right.
Speak the Secret campaign is designed to help women unleash some of these scary thoughts, and be honest about the thoughts that they're having, be honest about the thoughts that are scaring them, so that we can together support each other and know that we're not alone.
Yeah, I love it. And we're working on getting those now. So
Great,
hopefully
great.
we'll be able to get them. But Chris's question, which is I think it's a really good one, is do you help mothers who have babies with special needs?
Do we help mothers that have babies with special needs?
Yes.
Absolutely, sure. In our practice, we see all kinds of unexpected outcomes from birth complications and losses at the time of birth and before, all the way through across the lifespan. So mothers will come and say, "My teenager has a diagnosis that we weren't anticipating, or there has been an accident, or some sort of an outcome that's unexpected at any point during the lifespan." We see women in those situations as well.
Well, because I would imagine, I mean, that's some women don't know that their babies are going to be born with special needs,
Absolutely,
right? So there's a
absolutely,
big deal with that.
yes.
So how long have you been tracking that number? Because that's fascinating to me, the 1 out of 7. How long have you been tracking?
The 1 out of 7 is a piece of research that we didn't do here at our center. That's the when I speak, that's the statistic that I use. Sometimes you'll see as many as 1 in 5. Sometimes you'll see 1 in 10. But the statistic that we teach in our trainings and that we hold to kind of be the one that we use is 1 in 7.
Mhm.
That's not a source that we have, and we have not been tracking or
Okay.
performing research at our center.
I'm curious to know how long that has been at that number,
Hmm, hmm,
because I mean, 1 out of 20 is one thing. One out
hmm.
of seven is getting really close,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
and
just wonder.
that's why it's so important that we're having these conversations. The prevalence of these mood and anxiety disorders is very, very high, and the more we're talking about it, the more I expect to see more and more women coming forward saying, "I'm not feeling well, and I need help, and I need support."
So really, I think what I'm hearing you say is that regardless, do not diagnose your own feeling bad. If you feel bad, you should go get help.
Absolutely.
Do not diagnose it, and do not say that it's good. Yes, for sure, it's gonna when you get help, it's gonna go away. But there's nothing wrong with getting help.
Right,
That's a good
right.
thing. And so
And
you
I
go ahead.
I'll tell you as a therapist, and the majority of my practice is working with women with these mood and anxiety disorders. Enjoy and value the work just as much with women who have very, very mild cases of depression, where they're not even sure they need to come to therapy, as much as I enjoy working with women who are much, much sicker. The work is just as important, no matter where on the spectrum you fall, because ultimately our job is to make you feel like the best mom that you can be and to help you become the best mom that you want to be.
Mhm.
So I think those of us who are doing this work really consider it a privilege to work with whomever walks through the door at whatever stage in disorder or an illness or not.
I love that. That was well said. Because
Okay.
I mean, I remember stories, some horrific ones,
Hmm,
and I mean, we don't necessarily have to talk about it, but
hmm.
there have been some awful things that have happened with women with postpartum.
Sure.
So what are some and I know Amnon is trying to gather the pictures with Chris. So as far as we were working on it, as far as the campaign, so it's getting out there, it's talking about the things people don't talk about. What else?
So our founder, Karen Kleiman, who's really a thought leader in this field, she published the book "This Isn't What I Expected" decades ago, which was really a first attempt at writing a book for women and also for care providers to provide some insight into what's happening inside of the mind of a woman with postpartum depression. And I think that part of her gift is really in understanding the nuances of what new mothers need in order to thrive. She has an incredible sensitivity to helping moms articulate and to become comfortable articulating what their intrusive thoughts sound like. When a mom has a thought that sort of pops out of nowhere and she thinks, why would I think that about myself? Why would I think I'm a terrible person? Why would I think I'm a terrible mother? Why would I have these strange thoughts about my baby? Why would I have thoughts of wanting to run away or disappear? These thoughts very often are anxiety driven. And Karen has written volumes of books since her book, This Isn't What I Expected, helping clinicians and helping mothers to treat and be treated for postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. So a couple of months ago, Karen put out a hashtag Speak the Secret, and it took off. And around the same time that she put the hashtag out, Speak the Secret, encouraging women to speak the thought scaring them.
Okay, say that again. Encouraging women to speak.
Around the time that Karen put out the hashtag Speak the Secret, which was encouraging women to disclose the thoughts that they were having that were scaring them, she paired that with these fantastic cartoons that are at this time being collated into a book. We know that comic-driven books on mental health issues have shown success in the past. People respond really well to these sort of intimate, real, expressive graphics. And we put out a couple of them. Karen worked with the illustrator Molly McIntyre to put out some images, and they went viral. Picked up by Scary Mommy, Babble, The Bump, Today's Parents, all different kinds of media and social media. And mothers are responding really, really well to the combination of the Speak the Secret campaign and also these comics that show graphically an image of a mother talking with another person and what's happening in the mother's thought bubble versus what's happening in the conversation. So those are the images that I know that we're looking for now.
Okay, I'm not as trying to find them.
That's okay.
So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but one way or the other, we will get them out there.
That's okay.
Yeah. Definitely. So how much of your work involves the father?
I think it varies depending on the case. My initial training is as a family and couples counselor. So I really take a liking to working with both parents together. And I think it's really important to view this as a family issue. Certainly, postpartum depression impacts not just the mother, but also the relationship with the co-parent, with the partner. And I would say that a significant portion of the work that we all do, and particularly that I do, is to engage the other support system, the members of the support system in the therapy. I have mothers who bring their own mothers. I have mothers who bring a close friend, mothers who bring regularly kind of the other person that's helping to take care of her. And eventually, and sometimes primarily the husband or the spouse. The experience of recovering from postpartum depression requires that we recover the postpartum relationship as well and help the relationship adjust to the postpartum experience too.
So I'd like to get into some more specifics, but I think what's popping in my mind at the moment, my heart, is so a lot of in incorporating the other family members. Is it a lot about listening?
Absolutely.
Right? It's about listening, isn't it?
It is about listening, and it's about validating, and it's about loving, and it's about I think that for partners, the experience of becoming excited about a baby and watching this baby come into the world and experiencing kind of the first precious moments of the baby's life, which are on the one hand terrifying and on the other hand elating, and at the same time watching your loved one slip deeper and deeper and deeper into a depressive or anxious episode is incredibly confusing, is extremely terrifying. And when I see new parents come in and this is sort of their introduction to parenthood, one of the questions that I get asked very often is, what happened to my wife, and is she going to come back? Are we going to be okay? Am I going to recognize her again? And what I need from partners in those moments is for them to really just, to the best of their ability, find support for themselves, Who is it that you can talk to when you're feeling scared about how your wife is feeling? Who is it that you can turn to for support when you feel overwhelmed? Do we need to get support for you? Fathers experience postpartum depression as well. Um, can we work together to make sure that you know how to love your wife right now? Does she want to be touched? Does she want you to sit in the same room as her and not touch her? Does she want you to say you're doing a great job, or does she want you just to listen and hold her when she cries? So we need to figure out what he can do or what she can do to be supportive of the person who's suffering.
I didn't remember this. When you and I were chatting earlier before we actually went live, I had mentioned that I have two daughters, and I know my oldest daughter, when she gave birth to my 6-year-old grandson, she was, I mean, she was just so sad. And
Mm,
she was just so, it was so, everything was complicated. And it broke my heart. But as I'm sitting here now, I'm remembering my own. And I remember when I had postpartum depression and my daughter was just a little bit. And I said she was a baby. And my husband and I, my former husband, went up to the mountains because I love the mountains. And I thought this would be a great place for me to go. I love the mountains. It always made me feel great to be there. And I can remember we were there one day and we had gone canoeing or whatever. And I remember we had checked into the hotel and he looked at me and he said, "Okay, I've had enough. I'm ready to go." And I have to tell you, that was the moment that I knew that my relationship wasn't a good one
mm,
because I needed that mountain so bad that when he said to me, "It's enough. I could go now." That was my moment. I didn't know it, but I did know it later on. Every time I look back, that's the moment I remember. So what you're
mhm,
saying is so, 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 so true.
mhm, mhm.
You know, but we do need to ask each other questions.
Right.
And the fact that a man can have postpartum, I've never even thought about that.
Mhm.
I mean, really, it makes perfect sense.
They're certainly not immune to the adjustment or the experience of feeling overwhelmed, feeling like the spontaneity, the control,
Right.
um,
Sex, intimacy.
the sex, right? Life is very, very different after a baby comes, and the experience of loss is so profound for both
Right.
mothers and fathers, for both partners in the relationship.
So, Hillary, I think we have some pictures I want to show you, but is this
Wonderful.
is this what we're talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, tell us what we're seeing here.
All right, so you see the woman who's nursing her baby, and you see a little speech bubble over her head, and another woman that in this illustration I consider this the mother. So it's a mother, daughter, and granddaughter in this illustration, and mom says, "Don't you think this is the best time of your life?" Right? I mean, I think a lot of us can
Yeah.
relate to being home, first few days after giving birth, if we're fortunate enough to have our mothers with us, our mothers come and sit and maybe read a magazine while we learn how to mother ourselves. And mom says something well intentioned, like, "Don't you think this is the best time of your life?" And what we say out loud is, "Of course." What we're thinking may be, "I think my baby would be better off with another mother. I think I've made a huge mistake. I think I will find my baby dead in her crib. I think my baby will fly out of her car seat and into a ditch. I think I will drop my baby onto the cement I'm going down the stairs. I think I'm unfit to be a mother."
That's all. That's what you hear.
It is, and I think when these thoughts start to come up for new mothers, they feel like they can't say them out loud because the other person will judge. And they also feel afraid that if they say them out loud, these things will come true. There's no reason to believe that because these thoughts are percolating in our minds, that they're a prophecy of something coming true. These thoughts are the vast majority of the time anxiety driven. It's normal for new parents to have anxious thoughts. What's not normal is for these thoughts to become sticky to the point that they won't go away. So, for example, for a mother like me, where I don't have sticky, anxious thoughts, I might think, "Could I drop my baby in the tub? Could the slippery baby slip out of my hands and could she hit her head on the tub?" For me, without an anxiety disorder, that thought comes and it goes, and I don't think about that again. For a mother with anxiety or depression, that thought happens and that thought doesn't go away, or that thought might turn into an image, or that thought might come back every time you give a bath, or that thought might turn into an even scarier image. And these are women that we can help with therapy. sometimes with medication, and very, very often just by talking about how these thoughts are making you feel, you can begin to feel relief from the
Mhm.
panic and the terror that the thoughts create.
Yeah, but and there's not enough therapists. I can't even imagine enough therapists in the world to be able to touch the need of a woman or man
Mhm.
who is pregnant, going through pregnancy, delivering, and then the after. Anything that we can, all of us are. It's important for everyone to listen to this because we do touch each other, and
Mhm.
we are the first responders,
Right, right.
basically, right?
Sure.
My mother, after I gave birth to my first daughter, she she wouldn't sleep. So my mother said, "Well, pat her to sleep." I patted her for 6 months. Every time, nap, bedtime, I stood over that crib and I was miserable. Had because I listened. I didn't know.
Mhm.
You listen to people that my mother didn't mean anything about it. She'd pat her. I patted
Mhm.
her for 6 months until a friend of mine told me, Marilyn, put her in a bed, put her in the crib, walk out, and she'll
Right.
cry for a little bit and she'll be fine.
Mhm.
And she had to basically sit on me, not to walk back in that room.
Right, right,
But what do you know? You don't know.
right, right. We need to combine following our instincts and taking the advice of the people who care about us, and finding comfort in really good resources. And I think
Hmm.
that mothers today are really flooded with advice. We go to Google, we go to
Yeah,
social
yeah,
media, we go to all of our friends. We have access to so much information now. I think it's becoming harder and harder to find our own voices and make our own choices.
absolutely. So we have another picture, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
there's a couple more.
Okay, good.
This is actually, I'm actually seeing two sort of combined right now. I don't know if we can pan kind of right or left on the screen.
Okay, so do you see the one? Oh, you have them combined. Okay. Okay, this is what he's found. So,
That's okay.
yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm seeing on my screen right now on the right hand side is a mom who's sort of surrounded by people and holding her baby, and she's thinking as she's sort of in this crowd, if I admit that being a mother sucks a lot, does that mean I don't love my baby? And I wonder how many moms like myself have thought that from time to time, right? Like, this is just so hard and it's so much work, and I'm feeling so isolated in this crowded room. And if I were to admit to anybody here that I'm not feeling blissfully in love with this baby at all times, will all these people think I'm a terrible mother? And I think that the more women begin to talk about out loud, talk about how hard motherhood is, and talk about the feelings of self-doubt, and talking about, sometimes I want to feel like a woman. I want to feel like I am interesting and that I have a diverse, rich life to talk about. And I don't just want to talk about what's happening with my baby. I don't just want to be spending time with my baby, but I want to be multifaceted. I think women experience a lot of guilt with that, and the more we're talking about how multifaceted the feelings related to motherhood are, the better job we're doing supporting each other.
Mm. How long? I know this. You can't answer this question. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm sure you cannot answer.
Okay.
But basically, how long can it last?
It's a very good question. A story that I like to tell is that when Karen, our founder, founded the center, she put a little newspaper ad in a paper. This is 30 years ago, and she had three responses, and two of the responses were from elderly women who'd had children decades before, and who said, "I saw your ad asking for people who felt stressed and sad after they'd had a baby, and 50 years ago, I felt stressed and sad after I had my baby." And one of the reasons I find that story so moving and so touching is that when these issues happen after we become mothers, they can really color our experience. Imagine feeling from the very first days of your baby's life that you're a bad mother, that you couldn't breastfeed, or that you couldn't get the baby to sleep, or that you couldn't soothe the baby quickly enough, and therefore you must be a bad mom. These feelings begin to color and shape how we view ourselves as mothers, how we view ourselves as women, and how we view ourselves as people. So the more women are brave enough to reach out and ask for help. And the more they're able to understand that this is not one dimensional, that you are a good mom by doing the best that you can, that you are a good mom by loving your child and doing the best that you can to take care of him or her, and reaching out for help is the strongest, bravest thing that you can do, we can begin to set you up for a lifetime of higher self esteem. So, on the one hand, postpartum depression, I see it resolve in a matter of weeks. I see it resolve in a matter of months. It depends on the woman. It depends on the severity. It depends on her access to good care. Um, but women get better. Women really do get better. And sometimes it happens much more quickly than they think they will. On the other hand, for women who suffer in silence, they can suffer for a long time. And there's absolutely no need to suffer because there is help available almost everywhere.
And I would imagine that suffering, which might have begun with that postpartum, turns into other things.
Sorry, turns into
other things.
It can. It
turns into other things that you don't even, that you would identify as something else.
It can.
You're giving me the urge to want to do a book on In Just One Afternoon, listening to the hearts of women with postpartum depression.
That would be wonderful.
I mean, seriously.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah, because I like doing topics, where there is a secret.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And one of my topics is doing, with Black fathers, because we don't know you know what I mean? I like shining a light on areas where we don't normally shine too much light.
Right. And this is definitely an important one.
So maybe I'll give you a holler after this.
That would be lovely.
And we could talk about this because I'm doing a whole series.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, and I think this is one that sounds good to, it's near and dear to me, but also it's just one that we have to just talk about everything.
Right. And every woman has a story.
Yes,
every woman.
Every woman has a story.
Every woman who decides to have children has a story. Every woman who decides not to have children has a story. Every woman who tries to have children and has a difficult time having a child, or it does not have children and not by choice. We all have a story. And I like to be careful to make the point that my job is to work with all women who've experienced a reproductive moment. So by that, I mean, we all come of age and we all must be faced with the decision, do I wish to have kids? Do I not wish to have kids? Did it happen for me? Did it not happen for me? Why? No matter what your story, there's loss attached, and there's joy attached, and there's acceptance attached. And part of what I find so fulfilling about my work is being able to walk with women through that sort of experience in their lives. We all have a story, and it's important for all of our stories to be heard and for all of our stories to be told.
It is a big deal for a woman.
Yes.
This is a big deal. Having a baby, not having a baby, just what you said, that whole mouthful, that is a big deal.
Absolutely.
The choices that you make, even when you don't want a child, that's a big choice.
It really is.
In society, that is a big choice. And a lot of, I've seen friends, colleagues, who have made that choice, and it's a good choice for them. However, sometimes they have to explain it.
Right.
And that is not a good, that's ugh.
It's unfair.
Yeah.
It's unfair to explain your reproductive choices to anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that, part of what we can do for each other as women is to be accepting and tolerant and to honor each other's stories, no matter what they are or how we get there.
Absolutely. And, as a mother of daughters, I have a daughter right now, thank God, who is pregnant. And my grandson is her first child's 3, and he was through in vitro. And then they went through that whole process and got pregnant once, and it didn't didn't get pregnant. Now with her last embryo, got pregnant, and she's like 18 weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So everything we're talking about, talks to me.
Yes.
And it's, and go ahead.
You brought up something a little while ago. I think you said there aren't enough therapists in the world, and I think we can laugh about that on the one hand. But on the other, I really want to reassure your audience that there are therapists all over the country that are trained to do this work. And we get asked the question a lot, do I need a specialist or do I just need a good therapist? And I would say that the number one most important feature in looking for someone who can support you through a postpartum mood or anxiety disorder is that you like the person, that you feel it's someone that you can really confide in, that you feel it's someone who understands you, that you feel it's someone who you can tell how bad you're feeling. And if when you leave your session, you were not able to disclose or you couldn't imagine yourself ever disclosing how bad you're feeling, then it might be time to look for someone else. And I think it's important, from the therapist's mouth for clients to know that we don't have an ego about our work. We want you to receive the best care that you can. So if that means that I don't click with someone that I meet and I need to send them somewhere else, I give them referrals. That's part of my job. So I want to make sure that when women start to seek help, they know how to do it. I'm happy to provide some
Good.
resources
Oh,
here on the show or
yes.
as follow-up. What's the
Yeah,
best way to
we're going to do it both. And I'm glad you went back to that, because my intention was not to say there aren't a lot of therapists. There are. Yeah. Say that again.
Understood.
Okay, we lost you. Say that one more time. Hilary.
Sorry. I
Yeah.
understood that wasn't your
Yeah,
intention.
no,
I did
but I'm glad
understand.
yes, you were good listening there. Great listening. No, that was
Thank you.
very important what she just said. It's
Thank
real
you.
important. And that goes for, and sometimes, maybe the husband and wife have to go to somebody separately. Maybe you go together, maybe you go together and separate, there's not one thing for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will say that that when we get asked, what's the benefit of a specialist? Our center does a lot of training. We've trained clinicians all over the country. One of the resources that I'll give you is our website, because we know that the clinicians who've come through our program are trained to understand the nuances of new motherhood. There's a story from my own experience that I like to share that I think speaks to why a specialist can be helpful. After my first daughter was born and my husband and I were brand new parents, we decided to just see a therapist because as a therapist, I think therapy is really good. And we were having a big transition and wanted to just talk with someone. And I remember at 6 weeks postpartum, as I mentioned, nursing my older daughter was incredibly challenging. I was in a lot of pain, a tremendous amount of pain. And the therapist's response when I described how much pain I was feeling and how much stress I was feeling was, it sounds like it's time for some formula. And I listened to her and she told me stories about how she had fed her children who were our age formula decades earlier. And she was incredibly reassuring and kind and thoughtful in the way that she spoke to us. And when we left, I remember being in the parking lot and my husband was like, he was with me in the session and he was elated because he thought, like, here's the answer. We're going to sleep again. She's going to stop crying. It's going to be okay. She won't be bleeding. I won't have to hear about the breastfeeding anymore. Like, we figured it out. Here's the solution. And I felt so misunderstood. And what I learned as I became a specialist in this field is that you need to sort of understand how to look underneath the content and understand what's really going on for the mom. And the questions that this therapist didn't ask me were about what it meant to me to be breastfeeding this baby. She didn't talk to me about why it was so important to me that I breastfeed for a certain amount of time. She didn't understand that for me, I had somehow equated breastfeeding with my worth as a mother. And I think that for those of us who are specialists, we do understand those nuances. And that's just one example. There are so many stories, so many little details that women come in and share that we could so easily miss. So the training that we receive as specialists in this field is designed to make sure that we do a good job at not missing those nuances, that we know how to ask the right questions in ways that we hope will elicit the kinds of information that we need to help you see things in a way that will be affirming and that will help you make decisions in as clear-minded a way as we can. So again, liking your therapist, being able to disclose how bad you're feeling is the most important. But looking for someone who knows how to work with mothers, who is familiar with working with postpartum mood and anxiety disorders, that can also be a really valuable tool in helping you to access help.
And I want to ask you one quick question, and then I want to go back to this too, what you just
Sure.
said. So, and I want us to make a point of this. Some of this can come from a chemical imbalance, right? Some of it can come from an emotional thing. historical. I mean, there are lots of ways that this comes into being, not just
Correct.
one way.
Many risk factors.
It's very important for people to recognize is it's not just one thing or another. There's several ways that this comes up. So,
Absolutely.
and I just want to also, I'd like you to clarify, there are women who are in, small little towns somewhere. Are there therapists that do this, virtually?
Are there therapists that do it virtually? It's a very good question. We are seeing more and more resources pop up for women in small towns. Postpartum Support International is a fantastic resource for women around the country, for families around the country. There are in most, if not all states at this point, there are statewide coordinators, multiple coordinators per state that can provide resources even for women who live in smaller towns. We do the best that we can at our center to provide referrals. We receive calls from all over the world, and we do the best job that we can trying to find local resources. There are sometimes women may have to drive to access good care, but there is help available. There is help available even in small communities, and we do have a lot of those resources available through our website and available through Postpartum Support International's website.
That's great. And you have more resources to share now?
I think I think the two that I would recommend as in terms of seeking help, finding tools for help, those would be my two go-tos. PSI, Postpartum Support International, offers warm line information, hotline information, lots and lots of psychoeducation for families, lots of information for women who want to know what to do if they're not feeling well. And also good resources for referral resources for around the country. Our website offers a lot of similar information for women who might not be feeling well, information for fathers or partners who want to know how to help their loved ones. We have a long list of therapists who've trained at our center who are expert at doing this work. We recommend and endorse highly. Through our website, you can also find access to our closed Facebook support group. And our Facebook page is a wonderful place to access information about perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, and also to find help for yourself if you're interested in joining an online Facebook support group.
So I know we have another picture or two to show.
Mm-hmm.
This one?
Yeah. In this picture, you're looking at a friend or maybe a partner who asked, "Do you need anything?" And mom says, "Nope." And what you see that she really needs is a home-cooked meal, a shower, a break, some time to myself, some sleep, someone to understand how bad I feel. Sometimes I need time, rest, help, food, hugs, support, cookies, quiet, nourishment, help with laundry, cleaning, cooking, acknowledgement, and understanding.
And I think when I see this illustration, I want to say, a lot of times people, and we've probably already shared this, will say no.
Yes.
Because they don't know themselves. And
Yes.
sometimes you just have to stand up and say, and make it not not pushy, but you know what? Why don't you take a shower and let me whatever? Or you know what? Let's go out for lunch and blah, blah, blah. I mean, sometimes you as a loved one stand up, and even though somebody says no, they really mean yes, but I don't know how to ask, or yes, but I don't know. I should be like this. I should be tired.
Right.
So,
Right.
You just look, and that's a form of listening to me, is when you observe someone, just
Sure.
observe them and reach out.
Yep, exactly.
You have another one, Amnon? Is that the last one? So what other tools or strategies would you suggest to a new mom? Besides getting therapy, therapy is a big one. Is there any other tool or strategy that you would suggest?
I think that the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to answer that question differently. When someone says, "Do you need anything?" think of something that they can do for you. People are eager to help. If that means bring me a coffee, if it means I would really appreciate a meal, if it means could you please come over and hold the baby for 20 minutes so that I can take a hot shower, take advantage of the help that's offered. And if that's hard for you to do, I would encourage you to challenge yourself to do it once and see how it feels. If you don't like it, then don't do it again. I encourage you to look for support system. Maybe that means counseling. Maybe that means attending a group. There are lots of groups through newborn programs at hospitals when you give birth, through midwife centers, through libraries. But finding a new moms group so that you can just be around other new mothers is a really, really good opportunity to learn what other moms are going through. Um, I was the mom who brought my 2-month-old baby to the library class because I wanted to get out. And I figured if I went to the library class for, I guess it was for babies that were like 6 to 12 months old, when I brought my baby there, I thought, well, if I go sit in this class every week for the next couple of months while I'm, home with my baby, then I'll get to see these moms over and over again. And maybe we'll start talking and maybe we'll develop a friendship. And sure enough, this is how I started to meet people in my community, begin to create a community of moms for myself. So I encourage you to look for places that moms go and to go, even if your
Right.
baby's younger than you think she or he should be, in order
Definitely.
to
My daughters,
make sure the community is really important.
yeah, I mean, there are lots of religious centers, institutions that have mommy
Yeah.
and me's. They're
Yep.
wonderful. My daughters did exercise, when they would just take walks. I
Mhm.
would also suggest, we're fortunate we have all this opportunities. Meetups is a
Mhm.
wonderful meetup.com. They're, they're based on all kinds of interest groups and all kinds of stuff. And you could find lots of things in there for new mommies.
Right. And I encourage moms not to get discouraged if the first one doesn't feel like a fit. I know that your symptoms when you're not feeling well get in the way of your being able to do these things. And I know that for someone who's struggling with depression or anxiety, it's like, well, I can't just go to this group. Like I have worry to deal with and I have symptoms to deal with and I don't feel well. So there needs to be, I always ask my clients, trust me, take a little bit of leap of faith, hear my voice in your ear when you're getting dressed to go to this place, and know the better job we do trying to get ourselves out there, going for that 10-minute walk, getting ourselves to go to the moms group, these little decisions end up having a really positive result in the
Yes.
end.
And I loved what you said, Hilary. Just try it once. I
Hmm.
have a dear woman that I love dearly who lived with my daughters and I when she was growing up. And anyway, she has a baby now, and she went to she went to yoga one time, then it was another time. I mean, anything that you can do, and I said, and I agree with you. Just say, I'll just go once. It makes it a
Right.
lot easier to go when you're not looking at telling yourself you got to go 10 weeks in a row.
Exactly. One time.
One time, just one time. And sometimes if you call somebody to go with you, that could help.
Hmm.
Just one time makes a big, big, big difference.
Yes.
And, and that does help. It does shift the energy of how you feel. Even if it's that 1 hour,
Right.
you will feel different,
Right. Right.
and that 1 hour makes a big difference in that circle of drama that we keep going back
Absolutely.
and forth in our heads about the things that will pop up, and they will pop up again,
Hmm.
but the more you do these things, the stronger you get, and the more you see other women doing it too, and
Right.
hearing these stories, and
Right.
you're not crazy, that they are natural. So any other words of wisdom before we end the show? Because unfortunately we're at that point almost.
I just want to say thank you for having me on today and for opening the conversation about this topic. It's one that's really important for us to be talking about, and I'm so glad that you invited me to come, and hope that your listeners were able to find some comfort, some advice, and some good resources in hearing me speak today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're going to be posting this show a lot. And I would love to suggest to everybody out there to please share it. When you see one of our shows, please share it. Because our shows like this have such fabulous information, and we do not want them forgotten. And this information it isn't dated. This started millions of centuries ago, and it's going to keep, hopefully it'll get less and less because we have brilliant women like Hilary out there, But there are going to be women, no matter what, or men that are going. I mean, this is going to persist. So we do want to send it out. And Amlan, do you have the eye contact thing there? Okay. Oh, okay. Doesn't matter. I just want to tell everyone I'm using an email software that I love, Eye Contact. And if you go there, use the code Breaking Free, and you will get a special discount. They are wonderful. I'm going to be using them more and more because I have lots of things going on. And it's a great place to create your database and send out. You don't have to do a lot. You just send out a thank you note. You can send out a Christmas card, but it's a great place to keep your database. So I just want to suggest everybody do that. What? Oh, you got it? Thank you. You're so a miracle. Anyway, thank you. Hilary, you are an angel.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for coming and sharing. And when I posted earlier, I said, let's unsecret the secret.
Very nice.
Right? That's what we want to do.
It.
And remember this campaign, everybody. Speak the secret. Just speak about it. Share it with your daughters. Share it with friends. Share what happened to you so that these things are not stigmas. It's very important that we don't make them uncommon, that in some ways we make them. But of course, this kind of stuff happens, and this is what happens. Right?
Right.
Bless you. Thank you for being here. And everyone, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure. My pleasure. Everyone,
likewise.
Say that again.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody out there, we'll see you next week. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.